Hi everyone.
Hi guys.
Lovely to see you again. It's been a little while, but we've been keeping our sort of minds on perfume. We've been keeping.
Yeah, it's been the summer. We've been like running around, frolicking in the sun.
I've been exercising a lot.
Yeah.
Eating lots of salad. So today we're talking about maybe the opposite of salad. We're talking about.
In many ways.
You were talking about 200 years ago of great gastronomy, but in perfume form. I'd say don't eat these, but smell them. Yeah. Who do we have today? We've never done a video on these.
No, Sultan Pasha Attars. We've been wanting to do this for a long time.
Yeah.
Don't know why we haven't gotten around to it, but yeah, we in a few lists, Sultan Pasha's fragrances have cropped up. I mean, I think I first found out about Sultan Pasha Attars. I think it was when I started getting into Irisoir fragrances.
Yeah.
And people suggested I try Sultan Pasha, and then I actually realised that Sultan Pasha helped kind of train Russian Adam when he was in London. So these are not sprays.
No, I mean controversial.
And that's perhaps why I was a little later to come to them. And Joe, you were saying you're still a bit kind of apprehensive about that.
Yeah, I the only reason I'm saying to Dan that as of yet, I've not gotten into Attars is because I kind of don't know how to wear them. And I just worry that I would get a little bottle of something and I would do what I normally do with little splash bottles, tip it into my hand and lose most of it on the floor. I put a drop on and then I'm done for the day. I mean, that I'm a brute. But there is a way of wearing these because they're in bottles and they go down over a period of time, which must mean that they are being worn.
Maybe like we'll talk.
We'll do a masterclass.
So on that subject, so I think I'm right in saying, from what I've seen online from Sultan Pasha Attars, that he will be making some fragrances with alcohol. He seemed to be flying off to meet with people to discuss it. So that's fingers crossed, for those people who are apprehensive about it, or even people like me who have bought the Attars but still ultimately,
we like the noise of the nozzle. But on a serious note, I mean, the way these are made is, like you were saying earlier, for a very specific purpose, isn't it? They're made with the oil in mind and the way that behaves, and it's a completely different experience.
Yeah, I mean, some people have suggested that, why don't you just put some perfumer's alcohol in it? And I don't think it really isn't as simple as that. In the same way that if you were doing an EDP and an X-ray version of something, you wouldn't just be one is stronger than the other because they're going to behave differently. The volatility is going to be different.
Yeah.
So you can't, I mean, if he is moving into alcohol-based perfumes, it's going to be a whole different ballgame, not just shoving some perfumer's alcohol in it. So there may be,
and that's an insult to the craft of someone like that, isn't it? To say,
we were saying. I mean, the idea of if you have a symphony orchestra and you do a chamber orchestra version, you don't just have one of everything. You have to completely change the makeup because you can't have one violin to one trumpet because the trumpet
there'll be a fight.
Yeah.
In fact, I won't mention any names, but there was a famous conductor punching a trumpet at some point, and I think you've got to be careful with brass players. So no reduced scores, no perfumers attacking crazy people.
So as well as this news that he, I think is going to be releasing some alcohol-based perfumes. I think he's done a fragrance for zoologist.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting. Do we know what the animal is yet?
No. Honey badger, do you think?
Should be a honey badger or a three-toed Peruvian sloth. I don't know.
I can see, going by the fragrance, is something like a tiger, something rich and kind of,
I hope so,
regal, but also, I don't know.
But he might go the opposite way. He might do something really minimalist and fancy a break from these sort of things. He might do like, a dragonfly.
Canary.
Oh, no, dragonfly's been done, hasn't it? Canary, amoeba.
Yeah. Anyway, Sultan Pasha, he's a British perfumer, and he really likes Marilyn Monroe.
Good choice.
He posts a lot of Marilyn Monroe. So we are going to talk about a bunch of them, which I own, I have bought. So if you want to try these, these are not cheap, these fragrances. No. Definitely go and buy the sample pack. He does this massive sample pack with almost all the fragrances in these tiny bottles.
Do you want to show them?
Have you got a couple of them?
I've got some here. And I mean, they're very good because they have everything. I mean, I've made a mess, but this paper has the sort of full list.
Yeah. If you just hold up a little kind of one of them.
And there's one of those.
Yeah, just that kind of tiny little thing. So the way you would try those is, I think the best way is to put a paper clip in, poke it in, and then dab it and wipe it on skin. Anyway,
that reminds me. These are not from Greggy Boy, but he did send some Sultan Pasha things for me to smell a while ago, and I still have them. So Greggy, if you're watching, they're on the way back to you, I promise. But thank you, because that was very generous of you to do.
So, I mean, the other thing, which I think you've asked me about these, and other people have asked them, is, you know, is wearing an attar the same as wearing a spray-on fragrance in terms of kind of experience? And I think yes and no is the easy answer.
Good answer.
We'll talk about some of these fragrances. So some of these, which I've got, I wear them more for myself, and I think they're quite intimate, and they're ones to just sit in a dark room and smell yourself and have a bit of a cry.
Love that.
That kind of fragrance. But actually, one of them, the first one we're going to talk about, is one of the most complimented fragrance that I wear, which is kind of surprising. So it obviously gets reasonably good performance. So should we start smelling?
Let's crack on. Let's give these a smell.
So we're going to start.
I've smelled these, but not for a while. So this is.
So this is what it would look like. So this is a 3 ml bottle. It's got this lovely kind of little wax sealing.
It's very charming, actually.
Yeah, I mean they're very, very elegant little bottles. Lots of people use these standard bottles, but just having this little sealed top.
It's like something out of Lord of the Rings or something.
It really is. It's kind of SP seal, which I think a few people have slightly copied. Anyway, so I will just show you how I would apply. So you've got the swipe. I'm just going to be a bit careful because.
Oh, okay. I didn't
but
know
I would put some on my pulse points. So kind of like I can't do it like this. I would swipe onto my pulse points like that. Like that. So I've got a smear there. I would probably do another one on a pulse point here. I normally do one like underneath each ear, and then because I've got a beard,
just stick the whole jar in there and let it.
I do. So I would do kind of like 4 or 5 swipes,
which is nothing at all in terms of the actual.
Which is nothing
liquid,
at all.
is it?
And even like
so they do last.
So I've just done one swipe, and I feel you can already feel this fragrance filling space. So this is Encens Chypre.
It's very beautiful.
This is one of the cheapest ones we're going to talk about today. So this is £99 for.
Let's get a smell on it.
£99 for 3 ml, and this,
absolutely stunning.
This for me,
absolutely
is
stunning.
very nearly kind of signature scent worthy. This is a real, absolutely classic masculine Chypre. This kind of bitter green Chypre. So
that's how they should be done.
It's just. Isn't it weird? And although I'm putting on an oil, I think the smell you're getting really reminds me of those old school fragrances. There's the tiniest hint of Kuros. It's not really like that. I think this is much more nuanced and beautiful and elegant.
And if it was Kuros, it would be that vintage beast that we smelled a while ago. Do you remember?
Oh yeah. But for me, I mean, I'll give you another whiff here. But what I love about a kind of a good Chypre is the balance of light, and shade, and this has got so much kind of brightness, and it feels so energetic. Do you know?
The opening, apart from the incensey aspect, feels really green and bustling and busy.
Well, I don't. But
you can sense there's something really dark and murky underneath it.
It's not really. I don't think it's really incensey in the sense of a kind of bright fizzing, Bertrand Duchefort incense.
No.
It's more of this kind of mellow, kind of green, kind of maybe Boswellia sacra kind of thing, which kind of surrounds you.
But there's a sparkle to it. I find a sparkle.
I think there's elemi in that as well, which gives you that slightly kind of like almost a citrusy, like a citrusy resin. If that makes sense. But so much greenness. There's a hint of wormwood, but not so much that it overpowers.
Yeah.
But
a little tiny bit of dankness as well. Like you're in a sort of damp courtyard. Well, like the courtyard here, but mulch and grass and leaves all in there. But straight away without even getting to any sort of dry down middle.
But that's and that's if you had a great classic rich Chypre, that would be what you wanted. That kind of depth and richness.
Absolutely.
That kind of dankness, and I think it's got it here.
And it feels like I've said this with a few things, but this really especially feels so much like it has respect for the lineage of the perfumes. It's so classical. It doesn't need to try and do anything modern or daring or controversial. It just does what it does brilliantly.
Yeah.
I mean, I've not tried that on skin, but
I love it.
Already, it's just mesmerising.
I love wearing it.
Absolutely stunning.
And I think, I mean, I completely agree with you. It feels like
Smoke, just
like-
wisps of smoke in there.
absolutely darkness, and it feels massively like there's huge respect for the past, and you can see that structurally there's a lot of familiarities, but it still feels like it's got individuality and personality.
Yeah.
It's not just an Attar version of Encens Chypre
Absolutely not.
or whatever, is it?
It feels like it's a special, like something you wouldn't wear every day. It's a really beautiful.
I would wear this. I mean,
Yeah, well, no, yeah, absolutely. But I'm just thinking in
but-
terms of the beauty of it. It would be my holy grail.
But it is.
One
It
of.
says. I mean, about the only absolute consistency with these fragrances is the quality is extraordinary. I mean, I can't think of any other. This includes Irisoir, Bortnikov, Ensarud, all of those. It's such kind of consistency. I think,
Yeah.
and I definitely think there's nobody else that uses this quality of materials and blends with this expertise. You don't feel, even we're going to try some kind of rosy, oody things. You never feel like you're being smacked across the chops with it.
I think with those as well, I just get the vibe that it's been made. I've had this. That's so good. I've had this with a few things in the past. Is that they smell like they've been made by someone who loves perfume.
Yeah.
You can tell when someone is just in an academic exercise, or that they're following a formula or a recipe. That feels like this Sultan Pasha loves perfume, and is a fan and a sort of dedicatee as well as a creator.
And I think the other
That's
thing
what I get
is
in there.
sometimes with these, high-end artisanal fragrances, like your Ensarud and your Irisoir, they seem to kind of find an ingredient, like an oud, say, and go, right, this is going to be my starting point. Which is great, because you've got this like really great material to showcase. But here, I think he's thinking much more about the whole picture.
Yeah.
And when we get to Juriah, which is a rose oud, he's got this amazing award-winning Taif rose, but it's not just about that, actually. He's kind of almost seen the whole picture first, and then he's gone, right, I'm going to get the best Taif rose in the world.
Yeah, that's the skill,
to
isn't
fit
it?
into my composition,
Yeah.
not then. Right.
So what's number two?
Quite different, but also not different.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So Irisoir.
Okay.
This is one of my favourites, one of my favourite fragrances. So I'm going to try and swipe this on card so we can smell it together and experience it, which is not maybe a brilliant idea. So this is an ode to the iris of yesteryear. I'll just let you get stuck into that for a bit.
Much.
So this is much more expensive. So this is £300 for 3 mil, or £100 for 1 mil. So it's basically 3 times the price of Encens Chypre. But this, so I think this is a slight homage to Iris Gris by Jacques Fat. But this, this is probably my number one. Sit in a dark room on my own with a bottle of wine fragrance.
That's genuinely. I'm prone to sort of
It's almost makes you
exaggeration.
kind of well up, doesn't it?
It makes me feel quite moved, because it's just so beautiful and so evocative, and it's such a time travel thing. Oh,
It
it's one of the
smells.
most fantastic things I've ever smelled.
It smells of luxury.
Yeah, total. That smells like 100 years gone by.
It smells like a 1930s Rolls Royce with someone in a fur coat
Marilyn.
stepping out. Yeah, I mean,
Oh no, too early for Marilyn. But yeah, I mean that's without doubt one of the most beautiful things I've smelled.
yeah,
And like you mentioned wine, but actually I get a little wine in there.
yeah,
I'm getting like a really nice slightly oxidized Burgundy, when it's just on the cusp of
yeah,
being slightly sherry-like,
yeah, I know what you mean.
but in a beautiful way.
But more the way it tastes than it smells.
Yeah,
I think. I kind of get like thick, treacle, and again, the quality of really kind of oak-aged Bordeaux that you sometimes get, that kind of like rich, thick woodness. I mean, it's just this iris-y.
Beautiful.
It's so kind of thick, not just the liquid itself, but the smell is so thick and dense. It feels like you're engulfed in this kind of chocolate. It's not that it's chocolatey, but it's got that feeling of like caramel engulfing iris.
yeah. There's something in there you could eat. I like the fact the iris is not that really sort of heavy carrot seed iris that can
No.
hit you right there.
No.
Sometimes I get that with an iris, and I'm not such a big fan. Like Iris Silver Mist I've grown to love over the years. But when I first smelt it, it hit me right there, and I just couldn't deal with it. That's so rounded and buttery.
Yeah, it feels like when you're starting smelling it that it's been there for ages already.
Totally. I mean, yeah, that feels like a complete experience in itself, and we've not even put that on skin or worn it.
It's so. I mean, I just love wearing it so much, and there's this amazing kind of spice to it.
Amazing.
Do you know what I mean? That it's not just.
It's like curry thing.
Yeah.
Is it like an Immortelle or something?
This does. I mean, this one doesn't kind of like shift around so much. It's more like it's just one. Like a Mark Rothko painting or something like that, which is basically just one colour, and it's just gently kind of shifting and moving.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't need a massive journey, because if with some things like some Profumum,
I can get started on the next one.
If you're happy with what you've got in that opening and it's as beautiful as this, why change things?
It's the
little bit wisps of smoke and ink.
I don't know if you can see that, but the name. I'm not sure if that's going to focus. No, probably not. So the names are etched into the glass with a really fine etching thing.
Etcher.
Yeah, an etcher. Yeah. So this is Juriah, which he's kind of described as his magnum opus. Give me a second. Talk amongst yourselves for a minute.
So, what did everyone think of the football? Oh no, that's been and gone. But this is a delicate process, because Dan is actually extracting this whilst trying to hold it and not drop it, because that's precious juice in there. I love what it's doing to the strips as well. It's so nice to actually be able to see a perfume when you spray it.
Yes.
Oh, hello.
So this is Juriah. So this is, I think he actually refers to it as his magnum opus. This is expensive. So for 1 ml, it's £135, which is a lot of money. So 3 ml is $399.
What have you got?
1 ml. But, if you're only going to own one rose oud, it might as well be the best rose oud ever.
Absolutely amazing.
So this has got two. So Typh Rose is buttock-clenchingly expensive, and this has got 2 types of award-winning Typh Rose in it.
Well, that's 2 buttocks. It's got a whole arse of expensive.
But
that is absolutely incredible. I really, really wish you could smell that. I really wish you could smell that.
It's so good. And when you put it on skin, there's some Hindi oud in it, and it really, there is a bit of a snarl to it. I can't remember who I demonstrated. I put it on my skin and showed it to someone. I was like, wow, Jesus
it's a
Christ.
Beast. It's a real beast.
But you say it's a beast, but it's a real beauty. It's so elegant, and it doesn't feel like it's just the rose or it's just the oud. The mélange is impeccable. It's so elegant, and it's also got. I love the way you kind of got Typh Rose and then oud, and the middle is kind of taken up with osmanthus. So that kind of fills in that space. So it's not just bright top, heavy bottom. You really feel it's kind of.
It feels rounded. It feels like that's been blended like perfection.
Yeah, it is. It's, and as I say, it's not really just the case that he's found these really expensive materials and thought these materials are so good they will do the work for me.
You've got to know what you're doing with them.
It's magnificent.
I'm going to get that.
And again, this is. So
that's 1 ml. I mean, that's plenty.
Yeah, I mean, it does. And this is one which I've had compliments, and people have noticed it when I've worn it. So even though it's an Attar and I'm not using that much of it, people have noticed me wearing it. I genuinely am lost for words with some of these. It's so elegant. You know what I mean? There's no. It doesn't shout.
No.
It's so what is in there is so big and bold and strong.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't need to do anything.
Shout at you. Yeah,
they're voluptuous. They're very rich, but they're not being aggressive. They're not bolshy in that way that some perfumes are.
Absolutely.
More and more, I find I hate these things that people would often refer to as a beast or nuclear. Oh, yeah. I'm beginning to not enjoy that, because I feel like I want to wear a perfume on my terms during a day.
Yeah.
I don't like something that just blasts at me, and I find them after a while. Some perfumes can be quite oppressive. They just stay like a granite. Yeah.
Now this is something, especially after the last one, very, very, very different. So this is. And this is one which is slightly difficult to get your head around. So this is Thebes Grade I. So interestingly, he does a Grade I and a Grade II because they use different materials. So this one He says, dedicated to a very old, discontinued composition I smelt in Paris at a certain famous establishment. I think the famous establishment is Geller, probably, or the Osmotek. And I think the fragrance he's referring to is Jedi, which we're lucky that we actually got the chance to smell it there.
We smell the real thing.
So this is the grade 1. This is 250 quid for 3 mil or 88 for 1 mil. They also do a grade 2, which is much cheaper. He does a grade 2, which I've not tried.
That's beautiful.
Which is £99 for 3 mil and 35 for 1. So it's considerably less, almost a third less. So it's this just
beautiful,
extraordinarily. I think this is one of the most miserable fragrances I've ever smelt.
But in a good way.
yeah, and in a good way. And it just feels incredibly somber.
It's like the smell of numbness.
Yeah, of
it's troubled.
I think it smells. It's like the smell of death.
Yeah.
It's this real kind of like muguet, kind of lily of the valley kind of thing, but
there's something curiously space age about it.
It's really austere. But I think that
there's no oxygen there.
I think it's like a vacuum.
Yeah.
Like it smells of emptiness. I find it. And there's oriciness, quite a strong leathery kind of oriciness, and I think ambergris is doing lots in there as well. But again, this is one which
quite bright in a way.
Yeah, there's a little bit of bright, but it's not happy bright.
No. That's quite a trick, actually.
I'm reminded a little bit of Grey Flannel by Geoffrey Bean.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously this is much higher quality, but there's something of that.
But that violet leaf is actually quite reminiscent.
It's really, I find this really, really compelling, and I almost imagine this, this old Egyptian tomb which has been sealed, maybe for 100 years, and it's cold, and the air is almost oppressively heavy, not hot, but cold heavy.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, and it's dark.
And it's as if you could pulverize like hot concrete on a summer's day, and then release it as a mist.
So it's not like anything, I don't think it is very much like Jedi, because I remember Jedi being far more ambers and had a warmth to it, whereas I feel this is quite kind of austere and cold.
But I still find it comforting somehow.
Yeah.
I would find that coldness quite enjoyable to wear. I don't know why.
Well, I find it so compelling to wear, so it just draws me in.
Do you know, it reminds me in a really silly way of the smoke part of Breath of God, which I've got around the corner.
Yeah.
It on its own, it doesn't really smell like sort of notes that you would pick out of a lineup. It's like an experience, a smoky, leathery thing, but very diffuse. It feels like something it's kind of all exists above neck level somehow.
Yeah.
Weirdly heavy, but rich at the same time. Not that it doesn't have any base to it, but it just feels like it all exists up here.
Yeah, it's weird.
I can't explain what I mean.
In a way, this is very, very traditional, but it feels very not, very abstract as well at the same time.
I can't think of smelling anything like that. Like you say, I think Jedi was more of the ambery, sort of base aspects, really.
Just one more.
I'd like to smell it again
for today. So this is one, I think, which.
Oh,
so this is.
I'm getting that already.
Aurum Dankor or Aurum Dankor. So this is reference to Angkor Wat in Cambodia, and I might put a gratuitous holiday photo up here, because I remember going to Angkor Wat and Siem Reap in Cambodia, and waking up at about 4 a.m. to go and watch the sunrise over Angkor Wat. There's this kind of great big lake, and as it comes up, the sun comes up, you just have these kind of a million colours just kind of like shifting and changing, and that is just absolutely what I get.
That's my favourite. That's my absolute favourite.
It's just extraordinary. Wow. And again, this is one I don't feel necessarily behaves. It's not helpful to think of it in a kind of top, middle, or bottom, or even kind of progression. I just get these shifting kind of fractured light, just little chinks. Like a an elegant kaleidoscope. And he said he searched for 2 years for the right material of this. It's quite saffron heavy, which is interesting because I'm normally not a big fan of saffron. It's
There's
just
a sticky, immortal.
Yeah. There's this
something
massively jasmine-y, saffron-y.
It does feel very much of that part of the world as well.
It feels so.
It's a mile away from the sort of the Encens Chypre.
Yeah, which is so kind of classical. This feels a real nod to fragrances.
Yeah.
And fragrance styles of. I think my mind's leaping to India, even though the references to Cambodia, but it certainly feels like a non-Western fragrance. It feels very, very different.
Yeah,
it's that heavy saffron with all that thick, juicy jasmine, and there's that oud underneath it, and spice and flower swimming around in this big cocktail.
Yeah, it's a melange of incredible stuff, but again, so well blended. It doesn't feel like they're fighting.
But that's the thing.
They're not fighting.
It's
like
you have this kaleidoscope just gently, just shifting. It's not like push, push, and it's not like one recedes, then you get another.
I think that's amazing.
But compare it now to the Thebes. This is so golden, and this smells so miserable.
It's a bit sad afterwards. Yeah, it's like it's had its heart.
I love it, but. Very different.
Oh God, I'm getting sort of duck and plum and hoisin. Very salty as well.
Smell that how the Irisoir smells so spicy now, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, big clove going on there as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, actually, yeah. Maybe that's the spice. Yeah, I think you're right. Kind of eugenol.
Yeah. I didn't get it as much at first. It's really
but I think
up.
it's interesting because the Aurum Danko is such a heavy, thick floral thing.
It knocks you out.
The kind of exactly the floral part of and it's interesting now. You smell the Encens Chypre, or you can smell it's the top.
Yeah.
Because that part of your brain which smells flowers has been completely
it's been
knocked out by the Aurum.
But the top is just amazing anyway. So really, any part of this fragrance I would be happy to smell again. What's Ancora? Is my Aurum Danko is.
Aurum.
I love it, but actually I go back to smelling Encens Chypre, and
you think that's I could wear that every day?
I could wear this every day. I think that's more exciting.
Yeah.
I think Aurum is really exciting, but I could wear this every day.
Yeah.
This could be me.
Me too. And as I said,
I'm going to order a bottle of that right now while we're here.
I've had. I think.
I'm going to order a 100ml bottle.
I think. Well, we can try and order a 100ml bottle. I think it is out of stock at the moment.
Fuck.
I think he'll be making a new one. I will say,
Sultan Pasha, please make some new ones, and I promise I'll order them.
If you order,
immediately.
Even if you order from the UK, do not expect your order to arrive in the next couple of days, or maybe even the next couple of weeks. They do take a bit of time. They will get there, and they will get there safe and sound. And he'll often throw.
It's not Amazon.
Yeah, he'll often throw in a couple of samples and bits and bobs, but
which is incredible when you consider who it is. You're lucky if you get a couple of samples from Dior.
But Encens,
amazing.
Encens Chypre, it is a million miles away from the Aurum, isn't it? I mean, actually, physically, it feels like a different school of perfumery.
It's a different school of perfumery. It's across, different continent.
Big cultural
everything about
shift.
it is different. Yeah, and it's 100 years apart.
Just the honeyed kind of like thick jasmine saffron.
Yeah, amazing.
But did you see it? It's like the sunrise with all those little chinks of oranges and reds and deep crimson.
Smells that you only get at certain times of day. They're really incredible. I don't really understand why these are not on everybody's lips. Maybe they are, but
well, the reason. I'm 100% sure of the reason, and that's because you can't spray them.
Yeah, it's bonkers. It's bonkers. I was thinking the other day when I first got into perfumes, I thought, and a lot of people still do, aftershave was the general term.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
For anything that you would wear. Aftershave.
Yeah.
So I think I often bought fragrances in their aftershave bottled versions. So for instance, Obsession, Calvin Klein, I wore in 97, 98. And I remember distinctly having a splash bottle because I always thought, I'm wasting so much of this when I pour it. And they were incredible. And I think back now, what was I missing in terms of the other concentrations? But so we're attached to our spray bottles now, and I have been for years. But this has changed my mind completely.
I mean, my first purchase was I just went in and I bought Encens Chypre as a 3ml, so the biggest size.
Yeah, you've got to. Though.
I just thought I'm just going to go for it.
And what's that for 3ml? 100.
So this is £100. So
that's
bought
not
this
bad at all.
like
really.
3 years ago, and I've worn it, really quite a lot, and you can see kind of how long it lasts. I mean, if I wore it every day, I don't know.
What you've got to get out of your heads, I think, is that you get these 1ml, 2ml samples in various perfume places, and you spray them, and they're gone really quite quickly. You can't relate it to this. If you think, oh God, £100 for 2ml, that's crazy. It's not, because that lasts. That lasts both in terms of performance on your skin.
Yeah.
But the actual bottle itself lasts. I mean, look at it. Looks full. I would have assumed that's brand new, and it's.
I've had it for years. Yeah.
So it's not an equivalence, I think.
Yeah. But
genius.
I'm still very excited by the prospect of sprays. I love a spray.
Yeah, I mean, if you can put these in a spray and make the same magic, then please do. But I mean, rumours of things coming out.
That's on skin, so you got less of that top, and now you're just gone to such a classic Chypre.
Buttery beautifulness.
Buttery beautifulness.
They're incredible. They're really incredible fragrances, and I think they've made me reappraise my sort of ceiling a little bit.
Yeah.
In terms of what I think are the most out there things. I mean, the things like in this world. I don't mean in perfumery in general, but in this world, Bortnikovs and Irisoir, the kind of things that we would relate to. I think this has a lot more confidence and a lot more.
Just in terms of composition, it's more
skill.
Polished.
Yeah.
There's more finesse.
This feels like someone that's been doing this a long time.
Whilst having,
I don't know if Sultan has.
Whilst having absolute top grade materials.
Yeah.
Well. It's not.
It's the best of both. Yeah.
Amazing. Love it. I mean, I haven't got anything bad to say. I mean, they are expensive. But if I told you I've spent £135 on 1ml, you might think I was absolutely gaga, but I've got no regrets.
You smell these, honestly, and you're not going to be thinking in that game.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So,
thanks, Dan.
I mean, there are lots of fragrances. We did think of working our way through.
There's a huge list.
Yeah, we've got
20 or however many that is in there.
There are lots of other great fragrances that we haven't talked about here. I just wanted to talk about the ones which I've got, because otherwise we could be here for hours.
Does he do sort of what you'd call freshies? Like, does he do a sort of an aquatic thing that's
a blue aquatic?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to see his take on that sort of world.
Yeah.
I mean, a really salty, briny something.
I'm not sure actually. I don't know off the top of my head. But if you do know,
I mean, he'd be a master with ambergris as well, I imagine.
Yeah, well, I think there's a good dose of Irisoir, Thebes, especially. There's a load of ambergris in that. Anyway, lovely, jubbly. Until next time.
Bye.
Happy sniffing.